think I'm going to start. Okay. Hi guys, my name is Aaisha Sayed and I'm a financial reporting tutor at Zell Education. I've happened to teach financial reporting here from past 3 years. I also happen to be a qualified ACCA and a CPA CGA from Canada. I've finished my ACCA certification through the traditional examination route, but I finished my CPA CGA, the Chartered Accountancy Certifications of Canada, via the exemption route. So there is a MRA between ACCA and CPA Canada, the benefit of which I could take, and I just had to appear for few modules. I really didn't even have to travel across to Canada to get this credential. I have happened to also finish few exams in Kuwait and few in India when I was doing my ACCA examination. So I'll just give you a little background about myself in terms of where I finished my education and everything. Till 2016 I was staying in Kuwait. My family still resides there, and in 2016 I've moved to India. So I had already started my certification there back in Kuwait. I finished half of the papers there, and then I finished few papers here in India. So this is the kind of liberty ACCA is giving us, that is wherever we travel, whichever part of the country we are in, you are in a position to give all the exams, you're in a position to complete the entire certification without any problem of facing a geographical barrier. In fact, when I even shifted to India, there was a lot of times when I would move back to Kuwait, I would travel a lot. So again, I would do few exams there also. So it's still in a very smooth manner, within say a span of 2.5 to 3 years, I was able to finish my entire ACCA certification. And like I've already explained y'all, that using the ACCA certification, I've also got the benefit of claiming the CPA and CGA. So yes, this was a little about myself. Today, I want to welcome you all to the Financial Reporting Masterclass, where we will discuss a few tips, tricks and strategies in how you could use this last week before the exam. Okay. So I'll just run you all through the content of today. As you can see, I'm already showing you all today's the content that I'm going to cover today. But before this, I just want to bring one more thing to your notice, that these are the kind of sessions we have already conducted for other subjects as well. So if at all you're enrolled in any other subject for this quarter, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can make use of those videos, where again you'll be able to make a lot of benefit from the tips and tricks which our experts have to give. Okay, so moving forward, to start with, I'm going to discuss on the paper pattern. Then I will let you know how you could make use of this final week before the exam. I'll also run you all through the key topics which keep coming if a particular question has been asked in the exam. Then I'll make you familiar with certain platforms where you could practice the mock and the CB exams. The next session would be the FR exam strategy, which I feel is the most important session for today, because it can literally help you turn your fail into a pass. Lastly, I'll take certain certain question answers from your end. Okay, so let's start with the first topic of the day. So paper pattern, section A and B are objective type questions, and they're from all over the syllabus, right? We can't cherry pick what topics are going to come here. Section C, whereas we are already well prepared, or we are very well acquainted with what topics are tested here. We know that 99% one question is a ratio question, right? And the other question is either a single entity or a consolidation question. Okay, a very rare chance that a full-fledged cash flow can come here instead of these two, a very rare chance. Okay, so these are the marks distribution in front of you, and you also are aware probably that this is a 3-hour paper. So you have to be very smart with how you allocate your time. You cannot overspend time in section A or section B or section C, as you have to also finish the other sections or other topics as well. The best way you probably could, approach this would be you can allocate 50 minutes for section A, 50 minutes for section B, and section C, one question each. You can give 40 minutes. That's how you can probably utilize your 3 hours. Okay. Now moving ahead, my tips for how you could use this last week, I've right now divided for 2 groups: the students who are well prepared, and then there are students who probably couldn't prepare well because of certain job commitments or certain family commitments. So yeah, what could the well prepared ones do or use this last week for, or how? So first is, I assume that when we say you're well prepared, is you've got a chance to practice the exam kit questions once. Some of you all have also got a chance to practice it a second time or a third time. So by now you're already familiar with the repetitive adjustments that keep coming, or the repetitive questions that keep coming, right? What you must have, and you probably have also attempted mocks by now, right? So there are probably certain zones or certain areas when you were attempting mock, you realize you're not that good at, or you're not able to cater that well. So now is the time to pick on those categories or pick on those areas and start practicing them, or start becoming familiar with them. Become familiar with the unfamiliar content, or the content that makes you uncomfortable when you're doing the exams. Because you've already invested a lot of time on the repetitive ones, now you could utilize this time for the different content. Other than this, you also can use this time on drilling unique adjustments. So section C, like I already told you, will have either a single entity or consolidation question for sure. And if you observe the paper, if you observe the question pattern, we all know that after the PL and balance sheet or the trial balance, we have adjustments below that. And the adjustments are either repetitive in nature or they are unique, right? So the majority of the adjustments are repetitive, but there'll be 1 to 2 adjustments which are unique in nature, which are surprise elements for us. What you should be doing in this last week is, you already have identified those surprise elements. You can pick those adjustments, and in exam style condition, meaning for 5 minutes, you're going to set a timer of 5 minutes for one adjustment maybe. And when I say exam style condition, you're not going to give yourself access to any books or any reading material, and you're slowly going to read the adjustment, reread it, and think about the standard that it relates to and how you can apply it right now. Okay. So when I say unique and when I say it's a surprise element, it is actually a surprise element, and you might not be comfortable with that adjustment, right? But that's the idea. The idea is to become comfortable with not being comfortable. It's fine. It's okay. If you see a surprise element and you don't know, it's okay. So become used to that situation, and try to crack them with whatever knowledge of standards you have. The best thing that you can do here is, don't aim to 100% solve it correctly. That's not most of y'all can do. That's not what majority of the students will be able to do. What y'all can do here is at least attempt it, right? So attempt it, and the same scenario when you face in the exam, you're probably now comfortable with doing such surprise elements. That's the idea, and you don't panic anymore. Okay. The next thing that you can do is, you should be practicing as many ratios as you can, ratio questions as you can. The interpretation one, which is a compulsory question, which we know does come in the exam for sure, right? Now here there is a lot of content for you to read, because there are so many past questions for you. Okay, so there is a lot of content to read. So the more you read or the more you practice these sums, the better it is. And not just reading, definitely you have to drill them on your PC or laptop. You have to drill them on the worksheet. That's super important. There's also a pattern. When you solve a ratio question, there's also a pattern to it. You have to do the number crunching first, meaning you have to solve the ratios first and then give interpretation to it. So just some small quick tips over here. For solving the ratios, the number part, the numerical part at least, just don't randomly start on the worksheet. There is a table option given to you above. Insert the table depending on the number of ratios you have to calculate. So the rows and the columns, have it pre-decided, and then add that and do your ratio calculation there. Okay, do your ratio calculation there. And then after that, you could start your commenting part. And again, just one more thing that I want you all to remember for the commenting part, that whatever is the requirement of the examiner, say if the requirement of the examiner is to comment on the position and performance, so please make sure that when you're doing your answers, you have subtitles called performance and position. Let the examiner see that you have immediately catered let him see that you have immediately catered the requirement. Okay, so if you start randomly writing points, you're not maybe giving him the right impression, right? So give those subtitles to him. Next, this is for ratios. Next, there is a very important article on the ACCA website called Tell Me a Story. We're going to share the link for the same in the description, so you all can use that link. Now, I just can't explain you how important this article is. The moment you read this article, whatever level of your commenting is in a ratio question at this moment, it will definitely pull you 5 to 6 marks ahead of that. It's that kind of input this article is giving us. So not just one read, maybe you will have to read it 3 to 4 times to become familiar with the content of this article. It's a small article, just giving it one read would require 10 minutes. And like I'm saying, use this week and not just one time, but read it a little more times. There's also one more important article on the website called Intangible Assets. Again, the link for the same has been shared. This is another important article which you should be reading, because you can expect questions from this article, specifically from this article in your coming paper, either in section A, B or in section C as a unique adjustment. Now, why am I able to say that you can expect questions from this article specifically? Because ACCA has a pattern, and this you can apply for the other papers as well. ACCA has a pattern that whatever latest article is published on their website, they do take questions from there in the coming exam. They do this, right? So this is the latest article and you can expect questions from here. The key takeaway in this article is the definitions. The definitions here, please read the definitions thoroughly, because they'll try to confuse you with different definitions, with similar sounding different definitions in MCQs, right? So please read the definitions here. They are the key takeaway here. Okay. Now, the final thing for students who are already well prepared, I would say, is just in case you have not attempted a mock yet, now is the time to do it. I know it's the last week towards the exam. Still, you should be able to do one mock right now. Because try to understand, even if you have mastered the content and you have a very good grip over the syllabus, if you don't get yourself acquainted with what kind of, if you don't get yourself acquainted with the real exam condition, you probably won't be able to identify your weaknesses during the exam. So you might think that you're familiar with something right now, but you have a tendency to freeze when you see the same content during the exam. You become cold feet. So the idea is to identify such elements right now itself and then work on them in this last week. Become super familiar with and comfortable with. Okay. So this is what I would have to say for the students who are already, who have already got a chance to do thorough practice. Some of the tips here were also, useful for the ones who have not prepared. Anyway, I'm just going to, repeat some of the tips quickly. So for not well prepared students, the idea is you should probably not drilling the unique adjustments in this last week. Okay, like my tip for the ones who are well prepared was they could drill unique adjustments. On the other hand, you guys can't do this. Now why? Because try to understand, when we talk about unique adjustment, they just form maybe a 20% of your paper. 80% of the marks are still with a lot of repetitive element which y'all are familiar with, because they are on and on printed in our books and our past question papers. So what would be wise? To drill on the content which is tested often, or drill on the content which you probably you're not sure of is going to be tested or not, and even if it is tested, it's just 20%. So you can't afford that right now. Don't go into unique adjustment. Practice the adjustments which come over and over again, and I'll run you all through the adjustments which keep coming over and over again. Okay, in my next session I'll be covering that which adjustments keep coming in single entity and in consolidation. Now the second tip is the same which I gave earlier, that you have to read the 2 articles. Again, the link for it is given in the description. Third tip is again same, that you also have to read ratio questions, and you have to practice them again. At least 3 ratios questions you should be in a position to practice in this week on your word space itself. Lastly, I know that you're already facing time crunch, so you probably might get a chance to attempt mock or not attempt, but try your best. Even if you can attempt 1 mock, try it, because again it will give you useful insight into what is the things that you should be catering the last moment. It will immediately help you identify your weaknesses, and you'll be then focusing on that. Okay, so if you get a chance, please do it. Okay, so next, like I was telling you all, I'll run you all through the commonly tested adjustments. I told you all one 20-mark question of section C is either a consolidation question or single entity. So just in case a consolidation question is asked, what are the things you can expect here and you can become familiar with? So we all know when we start a consolidation question, the first paragraph is on purchase consideration, right? Every sum you pick, it is purchase consideration. So at least with the pattern, we don't have any surprise cropping up. We know it is related with the acquisition of the subsidiary and what are the terms and conditions at which we have acquired. Whether we have made an immediate payment, whether we have done a share exchange, whether we are doing a deferred consideration or we are doing a contingent consideration. So I'd suggest pick 5 sums and practice the purchase consideration for at least 5 sums. For those who have not got a chance to practice a lot, practice 5 sums for these coming adjustments. Also, one thumb rule that I'll tell you all right now. Right now, you maybe do not have a liberty to solve full-fledged sums. If you have not got a chance to practice a lot, you don't have a liberty to practice full-fledged sums. So what you can do is you can allocate 2 to 3 hours just for purchase consideration right now, and in 2 to 3 hours try to solve maximum questions you can only for purchase consideration. Pick the 20 mark and just see what adjustments are passed only for that first paragraph. Do it yourself, attempt it yourself. You'll falter in the first attempt, the second attempt, but with the third, fourth or fifth, you'll definitely keep getting better and better. So that's how you'll cater it instead of doing full-fledged sums. Idea is in 2 to 3 hours, at least you're getting control over that good 3 to 4 mark chunk. Okay, so maybe you can't get the 4 mark, but at least you can get to the 2 to 3 mark there. At least you can get a passing mark for that particular adjustment, right? Now, fair value adjustment, the second adjustment. After your consolidation PL or balance sheet format gets over, the first adjustment that you see is a fair value adjustment. And again, this is typical. In almost all sums, you'll see fair value is the first adjustment. This is also super repetitive and does come if a consolidation question is asked. So again, just invest 2 to 3 hours here, pick 5 questions or more and finish it. Get control over this topic. Okay. Third adjustment, intra-group trading. There you can just see intra-group trading where you just have common receivables, payables, or you have more than that. You also have goods in transit and cash in transit. So it's a flavor. Idea is either you pick the simple adjustments, the common receivables, payables, drill that, and also you can along with it drill the goods in transit and cash in transit adjustments. They're not very unique. Again, they're repetitive in nature. So you'll very easily get 5 questions to practice them. Now URP, if a consolidation question is asked, again 100% URP does come in picture. And again here also you have a pattern with very few things changing here and there. A few things changing here and there, meaning the profit percentage policy could be either markup or margin. These few things will change here and there. But otherwise there'll always be a case of unsold goods which were purchased from the group entity only. And because there are unsold goods purchased from a group company, URP is coming in picture. How to deal with the URP? Again, it's a very simple concept. Either you all can follow Zell lectures for the same, or you can read the published ACCA published or recognized books for the same. There is a very simple flow to it. and you can just practice 5 to 6 sums again in a row and get control over this topic. Lastly, lastly we have retained earnings post and pre-split. Again, without fail, every consolidation sum has this, because if you don't do the pre-post split, you won't be able to find the major contents of a consolidation sum, which is your group retained earnings, your non-controlling interest. So this has to be there, and this is going to be there. Again, every sum has it, so just pick 5 sums and cater them. Okay, so these are the typical adjustments of consolidation sum. Likewise, we have few typical adjustments for single entity sums. You can follow the same approach, same pattern. Rather than doing full-fledged sums, first master single adjustments, then if time permits, yes, of course, go ahead and solve the full sums as well. Okay, so a typical single entity adjustment sum would definitely have a property, plant and equipment adjustment. That's the first adjustment it normally has. Here in property, plant and equipment, it will be a mix of land and buildings, of machinery. And here also there's a lot of familiarity in the questions where you will see land and buildings are normally depreciated on straight line basis and a plant and equipment on WDV. This also doesn't change. They literally apply same patterns to the same set of or to the same asset category. So please become familiar with this as well. Then you have tax. Tax, I would say, is the hot favorite adjustment of my students, at least, because here the 3.5 marks are super easy to get. The moment you see the adjustment, in a minute or a minute and a half, they're able to grab that 3.5 marks. Because I'd like to share how to go about the tax adjustment as well. When you see a tax adjustment in a single entity sum, you can crack this pattern. They'll first, or in that adjustment, they'll definitely talk about the tax for the current year. So you have to deal with the tax for the current year. Tax for the current year has 2 impacts simply. It's a current year expense, so take it in your PL as tax expense. It is a balance sheet item as well, because it's also a tax payable. You don't settle it in the same year normally, so it's also a tax payable. So take it in your current liabilities. So to impact tax for current year in PL and balance sheet, you've got your 1 mark. You've already got your 1 mark. You just see that figure, put it in 2 places. Within that first 15 seconds or 20 seconds, you've got your 1 mark. Okay. The second statement that they give in this adjustment is they talk about under provision or over provision. They'll point out that there is a figure in the trial balance which is regarding under provision or over provision. They do not tell us what it is. You have to look at it and identify. So if it's a debit item, it's under provision. If it's a credit item, it's a over provision. I'll suggest y'all can watch Zell videos or Zell lectures to understand the concept of under provision or over provision in detail. Right now, I'm just helping you grab that easy marks. So when you see the under provision, try to understand it means that in the last year, in the previous year, you have recorded lesser tax expense. So current year, you have to deal with it. How do you deal with it? Current year, you adjust that expense. Now create that expense. That lesser expense in last year, adjust in the current year. Add it to your current year tax expense. Okay. Next thing, your over provision, which is a credit item in your trial balance. If a credit item appears, then that means you have recorded extra expense in the last year. So you're not going to go and change last year's profit and loss. You can but change current year's profit and loss. So go to your tax expense and record lesser tax expense by that amount. Go and deduct it from your current year tax expense. Again, you have grabbed your another 1 mark here immediately. So within 30 seconds, you have got to, take 2 marks here. Alright. The last in tax adjustment they give is your deferred tax. Again, there is a stepwise approach to it. It's a very simple approach. I'll again suggest you all to watch the lecture in detail for this. But if you want to, still be able to quickly get your marks here, I'll give you all, a strategy here as well. That they'll always talk about a temporary difference here. So take the temporary difference amount, simply multiply it with the tax rate. This is your closing deferred tax liability. Just multiply temporary difference with the tax rate. Put this closing deferred tax liability in your balance sheet. Okay. You again get your half to 1 mark here. You have just taken a figure, multiplied it with a rate, you have posted in the balance sheet, you have got your half to 1 mark here. Second, compare this closing deferred tax liability with the opening deferred tax liability. Meaning, in trial balance, there's one more deferred tax figure of last year's brought forward, right? It's a last year's brought forward. Compare with it. So you're talking about two liability figures and you're talking about a change between them, opening and closing. So whatever this movement is, whether the liability has increased or decreased, root it via PL. This is a thumb rule. Whatever the change in asset or liability, the changes are recorded in the profit and loss every year. The positions are showed in balance sheet. So with this simple logic, whatever movement is there in the deferred tax, that increase or decrease, go post it in your PL. So if liability is increasing, it's only logical you're going to treat it as an expense in PL. So go add it to your current year tax expense. And if your liability is decreasing, then of course it's like a decrease in expense for you as well. So go in your current year tax expense in PL, decrease the amount. So again, half mark you've probably got for doing the PL adjustment for the movement part, right? So this way you've been easily to get, you've easily got your 3 to 3.5 mark here. Trust me, when I check mocks, tax is the part where my students score full. Like there's no mistake there at least. They get 3.5. If it's a 3.5 mark adjustment, they get full 3.5. And if it's 3, they get the full 3 year. Alright. Now moving to financial instruments. Now financial instruments again is a typical adjustment in a single entity sum. Financial instruments has many scenarios. It can come as financial asset, liabilities, and then there are various categories depending upon the intention. Again, I'd suggest you refer the material or watch the Zell recordings for understanding the in-depth logics or reason behind the various categories. But again, to get your easy marks here, I'll give you all a tip. The most repetitive adjustment within financial instrument is a convertible bond. So that's also easy. It's not difficult. Again, just pick 3 to 4 sums on convertible bond. You'll identify a pattern and you'll definitely be able to do it by the 5th sum. If not convertible bond, they talk about a regular bond as well. And in regular bond also they give a typical problem again and again. There are issue costs attached with loan note. The way they treat it is wrong. In the sum, the way they treat it is wrong. They take it to admin expenses, however, which is wrong. So you have to remove it as a solution to get your 1 mark. You have to remove it from admin expenses. So when the examiner tells you issue costs have been treated in the admin expenses, immediately go in the admin expenses ka cell and remove that issue cost. Okay, you grab your 1 mark immediately and then treat that issue cost rightly. Okay. So yeah, financial instruments also, please get familiar with 4 to 5 questions. You'll be in a position to solve the typical adjustments here as well. So this was about the some adjustments where you can score easy marks. Now moving ahead, so other than just practicing in this last week, it's also important for you all to get familiar with the exam style before exam itself. So I've had students in the past who were super comfortable with the study part, with the practice, and they have full control over the syllabus. Okay, so they were very confident that their paper is going to go good. And in fact, when they saw the paper, the questions were easy, but only because they were not familiar with the platform that was in front of them, they got frustrated. And there were cases where they chose to not attempt it just out of frustration. They just probably attempted half and then they didn't attempt the remaining half because the platform was so new to them. They have been practicing it on a Microsoft Excel, and the spreadsheet which ACCA gives you is a little different in nature. So they couldn't handle this difference, and that's why they gave up. So let this not happen to you. You must be very well or over prepared rather. But it is super important to make yourself familiar with the kind of spreadsheet which ACCA examiner will give you, or the kind of word sheet the ACCA examiner will give you. So for that, we already have resources. Please go to the constructive response workspace on the ACCA website. We've provided the link for the same in the description below. Please use that. Now the idea is to start with, just go and try on the spreadsheet, at least go and try and see how the cells are working, whether what commands you're able to use. Are you able to use the sum formula? Are you able to use the plus sign as a shortcut? Are you able to use Control-C, Control-V, the cut and the paste options above? So explore that and become familiar with what you're going to be allowed to use or what you'll be able to use and not be able to use. Say for example, when you use your Microsoft Excel, when you're regularly practicing the sums, the single entity and console sums, you have an option in Microsoft Excel to right click and insert a row. So say you have made a PL format and then a balance sheet format, and you forgot to completely add, say, a cost of sales line. So you have revenue, cost of sales and GP. Now you don't have an option to insert row. So what do? Of course your PL format is wrong without cost of sales. In this case, because the ACCA spreadsheet is not going to allow you to insert row, you can cut the entire format that you've drawn and then drag it down. Simply cut and paste it down and then create that space or that one line for you. This is how you can go about it. So go and explore right now itself what you can't do, and if you can't do something, if there's a hindrance, how do you find a workaround for it. Okay, go and explore it now itself. This is the role of constructed response workspace. Then like I'm saying, and like I've already mentioned, section C questions, which is the single entity question and the consolidation question, has to be at least practiced 2 times, minimum I would say 2 times on that ACCA spreadsheet, the constructed response workspace spreadsheet, and also your word question, also your ratios interpretation. 2 questions please go and solve on the word sheet on the constructed response workspace again. Now lastly, ACCA as a resource also gives you a specimen mock paper. So here the mock is going to appear exactly like how it will appear in your exam hall. We all know that we have moved away from a pen and paper exam pattern to a computer based exam pattern, right? So it's not going to make sense anymore for you to practice mocks on pen and paper. You have to drill questions, you have to practice mocks only on the kind of platform that you're going to use on the exam day. So this resource, I'd again go and say that as a specimen mock exam, go solve this 3-hour paper in an exam style condition, meaning don't have access to any other resource or reading material at this point. Use this 3 hours wisely. Have a plan in your head that how you're going to cater section A, B and C, and identify again your weaknesses here. This is your opportunity to understand that even though you are allotting 50 minutes for section A, you're not finishing it in 50 minutes. So what do you do then? If you've already identified it, you probably have a strategy to deal with this. Just don't take this as a surprise element during your exam day. Okay, so this was regarding mock exams and CBE practice. Okay, so let's move ahead now with the exam strategy. Like I kept telling you guys, that exam strategy is one of the most important, I would say, the topic of discussion for the day, because this can literally turn your fail into pass. Try to understand that when you start your paper and when you're going through the questions and when you've already started solving, attempt questions that you can see right now you're comfortable with. Okay, there might be questions out there which when you see you're not able to recall content related with it, right? So don't panic and start trying to solve them. That's not the right strategy to go about it. Attempt what you're already good with. Okay, the idea here is, because you're already racing against time, you just have limited time, you have 3 hours. There is a chance, and this does happen with few students, where you end up leaving a good 5 to 10 mark paper. So if this is happening with you, it's best to say that you have left a 5 and a 10 mark paper which you already didn't know, rather than saying you've left a 5 to 10 mark paper which you were super familiar with. You've lost your chance of passing even when you could very easily, you had the knowledge for it, and you've lost your chance of passing. So this is not fair to yourself. Don't do this. Okay, next, don't overspend time on any MCQ or any sub question of section C. Don't overspend time. So even when you dive into a question and you think you know it, you start sometimes spending a lot of time because you think, oh, maybe you don't have the correct answer here, maybe you're going to try an alternative way, or maybe you're going to try to perfect it more if it's a section C adjustment or something of that sort. Idea is, don't do that. Don't overspend time, because remember what your focus is or what your goal is. You want to pass or crack a professional paper at this point of time, meaning a FR paper is what is your cracking, is what your aim is. You are not trying to ace a sub question or ace a MCQ, that how well you have done this particular sub question. So remember that goal and don't overspend time. Third, please guys, please make sure that you have the chance to attempt the full paper. I know I do say that the content you're not familiar with, don't overspend time and all of that. Yes, that's true. But along with that, don't leave them undone completely. At least attempt something with whatever knowledge you have. What happens is when the examiner is checking your answer scripts, your scripts gets a comment. So if there is a fully attempted script, it is going to be marked as fully attempted. And if it's not a fully attempted script, it's going to be marked as not a fully attempted script. So of course, we all can think which script would have a higher chance of passing. So of course, a fully attempted script is going to have a higher chance of passing. So don't do this mistake. Even if you don't know any answer, just mark something. And at least with MCQs and all, you have a probability that, 25% chance or a 50% chance if it's a true and false that you're correct, right? Also, there's no negative marking. So you can't afford to miss on anything. Next, I want to talk about a rule of ACCA which most of you all must not be familiar with, but it's a very important rule. It's called the own figure rule. So in ACCA, for every paper we have this rule where you will get marks even if you have a wrong answer. So your answer doesn't match with the answer key which examiner has. It's completely different. Still, you might end up getting full credit for that. Now, how does that happen, or how does this work? Say, for example, we are solving a section C single entity question in which the 15 mark was for solving a profit and loss sum and 5 mark was for a EPS sum. So next requirement was 5 mark for an EPS sum. So the flow was you had to solve the profit and loss and then come to EPS. For EPS, we all know the regular formula is profit for the year divided by the number of shares. So this profit for the year was, of course, a brought forward figure from the profit and loss statement that you've already prepared. Now, definitely for most of y'all and for majority of y'all won't have a profit for the year figure which matches the examiner's answer key, because there are so many adjustments that you're doing and there are surprise elements as well where majority of y'all will end up not having a perfect answer. So of course you don't have a perfect profit for the year and it doesn't match the key with the examiner. So definitely majority of y'all will again have a different answer of EPS from what examiner has. But here what examiner is going to check, that did you understand that it was the same profit for the year which you had to bring down to the EPS calculation. This is what the examiner is checking. So even if you're making adjustments to your profit for the year figure after, for the dividend distribution or anything, show the breakup of the formula, show what figures you're using, let him see that it is the P&L last figure that you're taking forward. Let him see this. If you have done all the other elements correctly, that is finding the shares, the denominator part correctly, finding the weighted average shares correctly, if all this has been done correctly, you're going to get full credit still for this EPS calculation, though it's wrong as a final figure. Why? Because he's already penalized you in your profit and loss question for your errors. When you were doing the adjustments, when you were doing surprise elements, he's already cut your marks there for the wrong adjustments, right? So he's not going to penalize you again for the same mistake. This is a rule that ACCA applies. They do not penalize you again for the same mistake. So keeping this rule in mind, OFR, please solve majority of the content, because again you all have a tendency to assume that okay, this is something that you all are going to get wrong any which way, so let's not solve it. No, don't do that. Okay. The next rule, which again you should be familiar with, is PAG, previously awarded grade. Now this is again an important rule, because when you do your ratio solving questions, when you solve your ratios and when you comment, there'll be an overlap in the comments many times. That is, when you're commenting for gross profit, the reasons that you all are giving for a change in the gross profit ratio, or why is it better or why is it less compared to competitor or industry average, that reasons will also fall true for an operating margin ratio. Because of course, whatever reasons is for GP, it will flow down to operating. So they'll definitely fall true. But again, if you go and write the same statements, what you wrote for GP down for the operating, the examiner is not going to be able to give you any credit for that. He's going to write these initials, PAG, across your statement, and which means that you've been already awarded a mark for it all year. So you're not going to get any extra marks. The maximum you can do here is maybe you can tell the examiner that you know that the comments that hold true for gross profit also hold true for operating. So you can say whatever was true over there also applies here. Maybe you can expect half to 1 mark credit for that, but simply copy pasting whatever was there above down will not get you all marks. So this is one rule. So don't overspend time in writing again the same things again and again. No marks for that. Now lastly, again one of the important thing that you have to remember for your exam is unique adjustments. So most of the time what happens is you'll see unique adjustments and you'll have a tendency to panic a little bit because you all don't know the content, you all are not familiar with. Try to understand that it's not just you who's facing this unique adjustment. Every other person in the exam hall has 20% of unique adjustment in their paper in some form or the other, right? So everyone is again like sailing in the same boat. So what maximum you can do here is try to recall which area this adjustment is connected to, which standard this adjustment is connected to. Try to recall the provisions of the standard, the measurement policy, the presentation policy, and recalling all that, do the maximum best that you can do over here. That's it, and then leave it then and there. Don't dig into it, don't panic over it. It's okay. Just do what you can do over there and proceed ahead. That's all you can do here. So before I end the session, I would like to take a few question and answers from you all.
The first question we have for you is, we conducted a poll on Instagram and these were the questions a few of our students asked. The first one is, the demand for ACCAs in the current market and how does FR play into a role for that?
Okay, so this is a very good question. I have my students also who keep asking me this question. See, I have also been through the ACCA journey and I've also been a student, and back then when I was doing ACCA, maybe the Indian market was not that much familiar with what ACCA was. So if I had to apply for a job, or if I have to talk to a mid-sized CA firm, I had to explain them what ACCA was. I had to tell them this is parallel of Indian CA. And if I would see job postings, I wouldn't see ACCA cropping up a lot. But the scenario is completely changed now. If you go to the job listing websites, if you go to 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 post requirement and when there is degrees ka section, you'll always see CA/ACCA/CPA. So ACCA has become highly recognized now. And so many jobs, in fact, are demanding only ACCA specifically. So ACCs and CPAs. So that's the kind of immense growth ACCA has seen. From the time I was a student to right now, 3 years down the line since I've started teaching, this is the kind of growth I have seen. And what role FR plays in your job market in India? I can't, tell you how important it is, because it's almost like a hot cake on your CV, I would say. If you type, IFRS and you're familiar with IFRS, you have grip over IFRS, you've mastered IFRS, this is going to really sell like a hot cake on your CV, because we have MNCs, we have the big fours here who have many clients from outside India. They are either, companies incorporated in US or other global, other various countries where IFRS has been adopted already, right? So definitely, when big fours and all are looking to recruit right now, and other MNCs when they're looking to recruit right now, because the clients are overseas, they're looking for, they are preferring us over any other, certified qualified accountant. So that's the kind of role ACCA has.
Another question we have, ma'am, is do companies which follow IND-AS, do they also follow IFRS standards?
So the companies which follow IND-AS, let's get into the background of IND-AS then. In India, we know that the companies which are listed companies are to use IND-AS for financial reporting. And of course, then there are private companies also which are again not listed. They are also using IND-AS. That's because if their net worth is 250 CR and above, they have an obligation to use it. And then of course there is voluntary adoption also. So the companies which were using Indian GAAP, they have also moved to IND-AS. Okay, so voluntary adoption is also possible. So let's try to understand that Ind AS, where now that it has come in India, what does it mean? To start with, let's get to the, what do I say, maybe parent of Ind AS, IFRS. See, IFRS were the global emerging standards, and when it started, probably it was, not an obligation on companies to, follow those standards. But right now, because at a global level, majority of the countries has accepted IFRS as a reporting standard, what they have done is they have replaced their old accounting gaps, and they have what IFRS is in their own countries. So either they have done a copy paste version of IFRS, they have 100% copied IFRS, or they have tweaked it a little bit. So what India has done here is India has tweaked it a little bit. That's why you will keep hearing the words carve in and carve outs. Carve in meaning Indian GAAP has probably brought in something new also, very little new element also, and it has also removed a very little bit of element. So to say companies which are using Ind AS, are they using IFRS as well? When we say Ind AS, we actually mean they're using IFRS. It is a similar version of IFRS with very few changes. So yes.
We have Vijay Venkatesh asking us that will section A and B be the battlefield or most scoring, or will it be section C?
It kind of really depends upon what kind of practice level you have for what type of sums. If you have been the student who have been drilling a lot of small questions during your study course, this is where you will be able to more score in your exam. But personally, I feel like section C is a little more score on the scoring side, because section C mein whatever your workings are, whatever you're doing to get your final answer for your PL and balance sheet, all that your examiner can see. So even if your final answers are wrong in the PL and balance sheet, he can see your workings and he's able to mark you there. He's able to give you step marks. Whereas this doesn't happen in section A and B. The examiner can't see your workings, so whatever is the final answer is what he's going to see, and if that doesn't match, it doesn't match. You're not going to get any mark for that. So on a personal side, I still feel section C is more scoring. Yes.
If someone wants to write 2 papers in a particular ACCA attempt, is there any paper in combination with FR that they can choose?
So FR, guys, is a very number crunching paper, meaning you all are dealing a lot with numbers and solving sums and all of this. So I would suggest to if you are trying to pair another paper with FR, you all could take a theory paper, so you all can balance it out. You all can have that balance. In that case, with FR, AA will also go well, audit will also go well, tax will also go well, because tax, even though is number crunching, but it's not like PM where you need immense practice, and it's a little on the difficult side. So tax and FR could go well, AA and FR could go well, even FM and FR could go well, by the way. So yes, there are many options.
We have a follow-up question by Adarsh. If they are choosing to write FR and AA, can they do it within a time span of 3 months, or should they plan further in advance?
I have had many students who have been giving 2 papers, especially the students who are not working anywhere else are, the students who are definitely giving 2 papers. And yes, I've seen them manage it pretty well in 3 months span itself. So FR and AA definitely manageable in 3 months time, because like I'm saying, they create a balance for each other. One is number crunching, the other is a lot of theory content. So if you're you're done with a lot of number practicing and you want to dive into a little bit of theory, you can move to AA and then so forth, vice versa. So yes, that works, and it works very well in 3 months as well.
So we have a student who has commented, I was not very good at FA but I passed. Would I still find FR very difficult? So if you could comment on the relationship from FA to an FR and then FR to SBR, just something for the students to understand.
Okay. So of course, definitely the FA, FR and SBR are all connected papers. Rather, there is a progressive pattern here in terms of the content. They all are catering IFRS standards, but at in terms of difficulty at an increasing level, of course. So when you start with FA, you have all the basic standards on assets, be it inventory. You have they cater the topic receivables, they cater property, plant and equipment, investments. All this is done at FA level, but again all this is also done at FR level. So yes, FA will form a base for you, and you'll be able to carry forward that knowledge to FR and make much use of it. But if someone has failed at FA and if you think you might find FR very difficult, I don't think that really could be the case, because try to understand when you were doing your fundamental papers, the foundation papers, I think the knowledge level, the knowledge level papers, you were still getting familiar with the ACCA style, and it was all probably a little new to you. So failing back then was a possibility, or high possibility. But when you come to FR, you've already become familiar with that content. Even though you've failed, I understand, but you've already become at least familiar with that content. So yeah, you're not going to face that kind of barrier here, and just because you failed. And second, FR is going to be how I would like to answer how it could be difficult from FA is it's going to bring in a lot more scenarios, and it's going to bring it in detail. So when we spoke of property, plant and equipment in FA, it probably had very basic adjustments in terms of removing depreciation, in terms of when we do a disposal, the gain or the loss, how to treat it. But in financial reporting, you're going to get many flavors around this property, plant and equipment itself. You're going to talk about impairment, how to deal with that. You're going to talk about a non-current asset held for sale, how do you deal with that. So around the asset families, many other standards also are going to be introduced here. This is how FR is going to work. More information, but still FR is a lot number crunching still. Also how FR would be different is in the section C for the ratios, you're going to, the kind of commenting you're doing here, a lot of interpretation, a lot of connecting to the scenarios, which probably you have not done in FA. So here it is going to differ a lot from your FA exam. Now coming to SBR, now how would SBR be different from FR? So definitely, because we have learned financial reporting with so many standards, they are going to be a lot of advantage in SBR. They're going to create the base there, because of course the standards are same, they're not changing. Yes, we have some few standards which are new coming in, but this all is still going to get carried forward as knowledge in the SBR paper. But try to understand that where FR was all about number crunching and dealing with solving sums, SBR is a lot about explaining those numbers, is a lot about talking about what those numbers mean. So this is how SBR is a lot different from financial reporting. Yeah.
We have an ambitious student asking us approximately how much should they score to score a world rank in any of the skill level papers.
So of course this differs from quarter to quarter really. Like we have had a global ranker even sometimes at a say 95 and sometimes at a 89 also. So this really differs from quarter to quarter. I wouldn't be able to give a number like that. But when you're just practicing and if you're looking for a rank, idea is don't think of getting a particular mark. If you're trying to rank, you perfect every topic that is in front of you. You try to read and absorb as much material as you can. Go beyond your books, go beyond. So if you're doing FR, go beyond FR, and if you're just focusing on one subject, go and start reading material on SBR as well. Because when we talk about unique element and surprise elements, that's where you will be able to, that's where we will be able to distinguish a ranker from a average student, right? So that unique material is mostly coming from, sometimes even from scenarios outside your book. So go read material beyond your books and aim for 100%. That's when you think, I think you can be a global ranker. Don't aim for a particular mark. Yeah.
Okay. We have Harsh Patel asking us that when they are moving to audit next, what are the things that they should remember from financial reporting, any concepts or anything that will help them in the audit paper as well?
Okay. So Harsh, the deal is financial reporting, like I've told you, deals with the framework, the standards, how you, so whatever balance sheet and PL items that you see, the single line items you see, what are the concepts behind them, the measurement technique, the the presentation technique. This is what FR deals with. When you talk about a AA, the audit paper, The audit paper is a lot on process and controls, and it's a lot about theory, that how you're going to check whether the certain item is, presented truly, fairly, whether there are no loopholes in the control. So in terms of an audit paper, that the technical content that you learn in FR might not be a lot of use in audit paper from ACCA exam paper wise, but in the real world it's extremely the opposite. Whatever you learn in FR is 100% super useful in the audit that you use in your real world exam. I mean real world workplace. So yeah. Okay. So thank you guys. It was a lovely session.